Alright, people, this is the Color Wheel Eye project. This is your final and should take you all week. Don't try to finish this today. Yeah, don't try to finish this today. It should take you, like, at least an hour or two. Make it look perfect because it's your final grade. Alright. We're using regular pencil, colored pencil, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Those are the primary colors. If you do not have a black color pencil, pen or Sharpie is okay, but not as good. You also need a piece of paper. Now, the constructing the eye is very similar to what we did last time when we made the eye assignment. There's just one extra step pretty much, and then the coloring, obviously. So we're going to add 2 extra lines inside the iris, so you'll have 8 different slices instead of 4. Half of it will get colored yellow, then another half with overlap will be magenta, and finally the cyan will overlap both the magenta and the yellow. And you're going to go back to normal shading and detail like we did previously. So I'm just going to use Chrome Canvas to demonstrate. You're going to be using your piece of paper. Now, what I want to be clear on is that this canvas is the same, should be thought of as your paper. When you go to layout, you do the initial 2 lines when we're for the eye setup. It should go to the edges of your paper. This eye should take up an enormous, almost all of your paper. And the marks that I'm going to make for the boundary of my eye are going to be all the way at the edge of my paper or your paper. And then I divide that space in half. So it's half of that. Then when I go to do this part on the horizontal line, these lines should go almost all the way off the paper. You want to use up as much of your paper as possible. If you're using loose leaf, the entire page, and have that page like a landscape instead of oh my goodness, what's it called? Landscape instead of portrait. So it should be long instead of tall, your paper. So the tall is for, doing essays and the like. We're drawing, so we want to make a long drawing. So football, you want the football to fill in. So I did the donut shape to begin with. I'm going to do my less than greater thans. Have my line go underneath and connect. And then over here, my rainbow line goes over, on top of, across the donut circly thing, not above. So I have this extra area right here. Okay, now we're going to do some erasing. I'm going to get rid of all of these lines and the top of the circle. Now, all this also, you should be pressing really lightly because of all the erasing we're going to have to do. All right. Now, I'm not going to erase the rest of those, the lines. I'm actually going to add more, but again, really lightly. All this really lightly. So now I have that it's 8 slices. It's like pizza or cake, pie, whatever it's round and you slice in a pieces. Now, at this point, if you have drawn really hard, you want to go back in with an eraser and lighten everything up. I'm using the white charcoal because my eraser deletes everything. And I want to be able to see these lines, but just barely. As when you use the colored pencil, especially the yellow, if you press really hard, you're going to see this kind of spider web thing shining through your color and it'll look bad. So almost no lines here. You barely want to see the lines. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to start with the yellow, just like the directions. Yellow, and I'm gonna fill in this half. And you can see it's not a full half circle because we have the top of that cut off. Okay, so it'll be like, not a full circle. Now I'm going to switch to, let's go with magenta. Now I'm going to go across like this. And again, it's not a full circle. Looks like what is that called? Trapezoid. A rounded trapezoid. All right, and finally I'm going to go with the cyan colored pencil. And I'm going to actually use this one so it overlaps the yellow and the magenta. I want it to overlap the yellow and the magenta. Okay, so I have areas where it's just plain cyan, plain magenta, plain yellow, and then I have areas where it's blended. All right, so this is my setup. Now I'm going to go back in and blend out these boundaries. So you can see boundaries pretty well. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to blend this out so it should look like a smooth transition. And when you're using the colored pencils, you want this to be waxy and you want a solid color so it looks like paint. Make sure you're blending these back and forth like the other projects we've done blending with. So slow transition from one color to the next. I'll go back to my magenta colored pencil. Try and get this nice and solid and blend out the boundary. It looks like it just slowly changes into the next color. Okay. Now, again, this project is going to take you all week. Do not expect to get this done today. If you get it done today and turn it in, I'll probably send it back to you with some feedback. And if you're looking for feedback, turn it in. Because if you turn it in early, I'll say, hey, here's the things you can do to make it even better. And yeah. So this is our final. It should take you a while. This is like an essay. You don't spend one day on an essay and turn it in and expect a good grade on it. Take your time. Okay, so I've got these blended nicely. I don't see any boundaries. So I'll go back and rescue my pupil area. So I'll get this nice and dark. Now, at the very end of our other eye project, there was a highlight. Now, during this time, it'd be really challenging to leave a white space, that looks like this. I can go back in and just color over the top because I'm using chrome canvas. If you had some paint, you could, but you really don't need that. Yeah, you don't need it there, but if you get in there, good job. Like that's challenging. All right, so I'm going to pretend, so the center is my 4 value. If you remember the value scale, where I colored is a 3 value. So I need to put in my 2 value right here. Remember the 2 value goes out around here because that's the shadow, because your eye is in your skull. So there's some shading. The light doesn't fully hit your eyeball. And then this is going to be a 1 value right here. And you shade on top of the color wheel too. All right, so I got my shading. And pretty much now it's down to the detail section. So we're pretending this is a black colored pencil. Again, if you have like a fine point Sharpie, this would look okay. But really, colored pencil is the perfect thing. Now I'm just doing this kind of like jagged zigzag back and forth, but I'm making sure it's pointed to the center of the eye. So my zigzag should be going to the very center and pretend there's a teeny tiny dot in the center. Kind of think of it like a heartbeat, like the pump, 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 like the heart monitors you see in the movies, or if you've ever been in the hospital, there's like a. Okay, and then I'll go back in and I'll darken up some of the lines, make it make it look really solid. Tear duct, normally I draw the left eye. I don't know why I do that. I got a little tear duct going in there. Make this darker. I just darken up all the boundaries so it looks really polished and clean. Again, this is your final. Not rushing this. This tutorial probably is going to take me about 10 minutes. Should take you an entire week. So eyelash or eyelids right here. Going to do the eyelashes. You want smiley faces coming off the top. So it goes. It's like side, kind of like crooked smiley faces and frowny face lines down at the bottom. And we don't want a ton of eyelashes. About 20, 30 is ideal. If you go crazy and they don't, flip up like this, it's not going to look good. It's not going to look convincing as eyelashes. Now I could go back in further, make it even darker. If you have like a pen, I don't know if this will look nice. Let's see. Yeah, that's really dark. So again, like Sharpie is not ideal, but it does need to get darker to look cleaner. It's looking pretty good. Maybe if you have a Sharpie that's running out, like a partially dried Sharpie, it'd look good. But ideally, black colored pencil. I could do a little more shading maybe around up here. And I think I'll call that quits for now. Now, again, this should take up your entire piece of paper. The iris should be about the size of a coaster, like a bottom of a cup or I don't know what's a grapefruit. It should be big. Okay, and that is it for this tutorial.